Are you ready to unlock your full potential and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Welcome to Remarkably Simple, the podcast dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm Moneke Fields, and I believe that with the right strategies, anyone can achieve remarkable results. Whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting a business, this podcast is your guide to achieving your goals with simplicity and efficiency. Let's embark on this journey together and make success simple. Hello, everyone. It's Moneke Fields here again, and I would like to welcome you back to this episode of Remarkably Simple and introduce to you our latest guest, Blanka Falk, who is the author of Help, I've Become a Mother, which is available on Amazon. She is a mental trainer for mothers, and we're going to have a great conversation with her today. So, hi, Blanka, welcome.
Hello, thank you for inviting me on your podcast. I'm so happy to be here and welcome everyone who's listening. So great to be with you, Monique.
Yeah, so to get our conversation started, I would love for you to share with us. I've just let everybody know about the book that you've written and very briefly mentioned the type of work that you do. But I'm curious about your background that brought you to the place that now you are helping people with their mindset and, personal insights. Tell us a little bit about how you got to be here.
Yes, right. Well, I'm a mother of 4 children. They are now between 9 and 18 years old. So I went with them through all situations. And actually, I tried a lot in the beginning. And just to figure out which is the best way to go for me and with them, because each child is different. And I always try to keep them individual. So I tried different things. With one baby, it was okay to carry all the time. Another baby didn't want it. So this is just a short example. There are so many other situations that I just experienced. And I thought, it's a great way to actually give this to young mothers or women who are pregnant and to teach them the inner being. Because if you give birth to a child, physically you become a mother, but from the inside you have to develop. And there are so many women who are just feeling overwhelmed with their first baby because they didn't expect the inner development, which just shows up and you can't stop it. You can't say, okay, I haven't known this. Please get the baby back. So you have to go through this. And I know that there are so many struggles in these times. Yes, and I just like to give them a helping hand to go through this, to place their thoughts in the right position, and to really guide them from the inner being.
So it sounds like your own experience of walking through this journey of raising your children and all
Yeah.
of the varieties of, personalities and preferences that they have has brought you this sensitivity to support people who feel perhaps overwhelmed or unsure about their choices and what they're doing as parents when they are having their first children. I think
Yes,
that's
right.
so fascinating. And it makes me think about my own experience for sure. I can relate to what you just referenced about the inner work that we need to do to develop when we are feeling overwhelmed with all of these new external responsibilities, these physical things that we have. So I love that perspective. I wonder if you could relate any instance of challenge or setback that prompted you to learn the strategies that you ultimately were successful with in your parenting and that you teach other people. I imagine you look at them now as more like stepping stone or, points of personal growth. So what
Yeah,
favorite
right.
example do you have about this challenge
Yes.
turned opportunity?
The first one is really that I had to let my career go. And
Ah,
this was one of the biggest challenges for me to say, okay, I was a tax consultant. So,
mm,
and I thought I can work remote, I can work at home whilst having my baby and everything is fine. But I was thrown into life that this is not my way. I always got an inflammation as soon as I was thinking about my profession. First, I didn't I didn't relate to this. I thought, okay, I got an inflammation. It happens. But I didn't realize that there is a connection between my thoughts, thinking about my profession and going into education and attending seminars or anything like this, just to keep up to date with the laws that always come up. And I thought, okay, it doesn't have to do anything with each other. But then my husband actually said, have you noticed this? Always, if you try to go back, you always got an inflammation, and it really became worse. And then I thought, okay, how can I solve this? And the only way I was, of course, you can only make this together. It's a decision that you have to make, but you have to be in a team, with your husband or your partner, or so that you really agree with this situation, to say, okay, stay at home. I will go for work. I will bring the money in, and you just stay at home with the baby. And it was a challenge, really, because there is always coming this, but I had so many exams done and put so much effort to come to this point, and now I shouldn't work anymore. This was really, but I couldn't help. It was my body was telling me different, so I had to let go. And this was the first real big challenge that I had, but I made it. And actually, to be committed as a mother, I thought I would lose something, but actually I gained so much more. I wouldn't have this if I was just in my job, because the development of my person is so huge that
Mhm.
I thought, oh, wow, I would have missed if I was just keeping my job and doing nothing else. So this is
Yeah,
just an
I think
example for the first step.
this is such a relatable example. I'm thinking again about so many of us who have professional aspirations and visions of changing the world with our work or making an impact, very often feeling at first like we can do it all and conquer all of the challenges out there. And some of us find a way to do that. But I think in the example that you share, your body was telling you this is not your path and that you needed to relax and let go, to trust that
Yeah.
it was going to be okay. I've experienced this, interestingly enough, toward the end of my career after 24 years of education and starting to notice the lack of quality time that I was having with my children in, I guess all of the years are critical years, but as they started heading into their teen years, I didn't want to be surrendering their development to the internet, babysitters, or whomever it would be that was looking after them after I was working with, such a furied pace. So I can relate directly to what it means to listen to those messages, either whether they're coming from your family or from your body, um,
Yeah.
to make good decisions for yourself. I think that's so ultimately empowering. I don't know if you agree when you're able to do that release and letting go and accepting that this was the right thing for you to do. I mean, how did you feel after that, or how did things change?
Yes, really, it was a release. Well, for me, it was a release, but I can tell you my environment couldn't couldn't relate to this. They were telling, "Hey, why are you staying at home? Why don't you go back? Why don't you can do just a little?" And when I told them, "No, actually I can't. Perhaps there are women outside who can, but it's not my way."
Mhm.
So, and just looking backwards, because in this situation you don't know where your path is leading you. But looking backwards, now I can tell you, okay, I had to do this because I had to go through these experiences in a different way, so that I'm now able to teach others, to guide them, and to be there. Because if I hadn't done this in full, there would be always something missing. And so yes, it was actually not a struggle for me in the inside, but to really to know where I'm at and in which position and situation I'm at, and really to let everyone outside, and not to, you know, I haven't I don't regret anything. So people can't understand this here, but I don't care about this actually. So I'm strong enough to say, okay, it's yours. It's not my life.
I think this is a beautiful example of the development that you're talking about that really is an example of inner work because it takes a tremendous amount of personal fortitude, self-validation, strength to be able to make the decision that is right for you. And as you said, very respectfully, including your partner with your family's best interest in mind, but blocking out the opinion and the perspective of other people in the way that they are living their life and they're sort of projecting on you what is best for yours. Um, and I love that. To your point about when you first have the child, you don't necessarily anticipate all of the decisions and crossroads that you're going to come to in your own personal development and as a parent. You don't see it all, but you
Yeah.
reference one of my favorite quotes about, and I just has mentioned this in another conversation. It's funny with a different individual. Steve Jobs is attributed to saying that you can only connect the dots looking backward, right?
Yes,
Once you
right.
have arrived at the place, to your point, you don't know where the path is leading you, but you're trusting and you're moving forward. And when you get to whatever place it is that you're in the future and you look back, it makes sense. The
Yeah.
things are lined up. And so now you're in this beautiful place where you are helping other people at the beginning of their journey of becoming a mother and doing this inner development. And that brings me to ask the question, what is it that you teach them to do? What do you help them learn?
Yes, firstly, if you give birth to a child, birth to a baby, you really feel exhausted. So you have to raise your energy, actually, to raise it so that you can, it's always a self-care too, because it's not only the projection on the baby, which is important, no way to ask, but always keep yourself in mind that you can eat and drink enough. Drinking is so important.
Hmm.
And I can remember I was drinking, I think, 3 or 4 liters a day, but I was breastfeeding. This was my passion.
Hmm.
And they always told me, hey, don't forget the water. So if you breastfeed, just place a water bottle just next to you that after breastfeeding, you just drink two. And just there are so many little steps that you can take to raise your energy, really mm, to give your time, give yourself time to sleep. So there is another trick to say, sleep if the baby sleeps.
Hmm.
So you will never get a lack of sleep, but we are always so focused on our rhythm. We have to wake up at 7 o'clock or whatever and go to bed at 10 o'clock or whatever. And oh, the baby doesn't fit into this. No. So you have to, yes, you have to adjust your rhythm to the baby.
Hmm.
But actually you won't lose anything, because what you gain is really the strength, the strength and the bonding process with your baby. And it's always connected like a team. It gives you
Hmm.
something, and you can get something and you can give something. And this is always in a flow. And if you can accept this, it will just bring you the energy and you will be grateful for everything. I like to tell everyone, be grateful for what you have. And sometimes you forget to say thank you, but it's a nice way just in the morning, or if you just start feeding your baby, to look at your baby and be grateful, because this is so precious to bring this soul on earth.
So,
And it's only having a baby, there is
yes,
so much more inside.
the principle or the premise of this show is that success is remarkably simple. And it's not easy work to change your rhythm, to accept a new process, to not be in control, so to speak, but to go with the flow, the new one that's being created between you and the baby. But I think this is another example of the development. And I love what you advise about being sure that your frequency is high, that you're energized and hydrated, well rested, and this transcendent principle of gratitude. This is applicable for new mothers. It's individuals who are stepping into new roles. So many people can benefit from the practice of opening your eyes. And it doesn't need to be anything fabulous, but what do you see? What is present with you that you are grateful for? It is such an amazing energy booster and elevator. So I love that you share that as one of the principles that you teach new or soon to be moms, because I can imagine that's just a very empowering way to go through the journey of motherhood, especially in the sometimes challenging early years.
Yeah.
That's really fantastic. Um, so you work with a lot of people who are new in their journey or early on and perhaps experiencing some frustration. But I wonder, what are some challenges that you see, common challenges that new mothers or early parenting mothers are experiencing? And how do you help them get on the right track? Perhaps especially the individuals who didn't get to start adopting these mindsets before the baby came so that maybe they felt prepared. How do you help, or what do you tell people to do to navigate some of the challenges?
As I think one of the biggest challenges is really that that our new, I would call this the new society, the upcoming mothers, the young mothers, who are, I would say, a kind of disconnected to nature
Mm,
because of our information area, information time. Everyone is gathering from the outside and is not listening to the inside anymore. But giving birth to a child is an inside job too. So
mhm.
you have to feel your body and your needs actually. What do you want in this situation? So it's important really to come back to yourself and to practice some time just to be with yourself. And even if it's just 10 minutes a day, you can start with this. It's totally okay. But start to be quiet, start to look inside of you, what's coming up, what emotions come up. Perhaps you are not patient to be calm for 10 minutes. So if you can't do this, go back to 5 minutes, but at least take a time to start so that you can get in contact with yourself again. It's nature, it's nothing new, and you can't
Mhm.
read it. Well, you can read it in books, but actually this is a point you really have to practice.
Exactly.
You have to do it. So it's nice that you have read this in a book and you know it, but it doesn't help you. So really take the time, take your timer and put it on 5 minutes and just do it. So
I love this, encouraging people to slow down. And maybe you think about it like the control on a valve to just slow the input a little bit, right? So that they have a better space and opportunity to connect with and feel themselves. I very often work with clients and encourage them the same practice that I do, which is taking time to be aware. Like you said, what's coming up? What's coming up for you? Instead of functioning all the time on autopilot. We look
yeah,
up and we don't know how we got home or when we did this or that, but to be present with yourself so that you're aware of what you're thinking, I think just gives you such a beautiful position so that you're not at the effect of everything that's going on and much more intentional. I also heard you say that you like to encourage people to think about how do they want to be, right?
yeah,
Like, what do you, if you stop the flow on that valve just a little bit, it's a lot easier to maintain who you are and what you want because you're spending intentional time every day connecting or at least thinking about how do I want to be as a mother? How do I value this time with my child and the, you know, habits and practices that I'm now developing. And man, this gives me so many beautiful memories of what I don't believe I necessarily had taught wisdom for when I was a young mother and my children were just born. But so much of what you say about just creating the space to slow down, so much wisdom came from my intuition. Perhaps it was inherited or something that I observed from, my younger years seeing children cared for. When I look back at things that I did, I have very few regrets about the choices that I made as a mother because my children and I were the center of those decisions. And we had the very connected experience. when you talked about breastfeeding, that was something that was so important to me. And I am so grateful for it, right? That it was a beautiful time of connection, but also nourishment, so many different elements there. And so I think that's just such beautiful advice to help individuals navigate these decisions about what they're going to prioritize and do in their early parenting days. So thank you for that suggestion. I think that this conversation is so rich and interesting, and clearly we could go on and on. I have a few other questions for you, but before we get carried away and forget, I would love to share with people where they could find you to learn more about the teaching that you do and ways that you can help new or young mothers in their journey.
Yeah, okay. You can find me in a few social media platforms like LinkedIn. There it is, my full name, Blanka Falk. And you can find me on Instagram. It's a little difficult because it's a German account. So it's the name of my book, Hilfe, ich werde Mutter. That's the German title,
Ah,
Help I Become a Mother. And on Facebook, you can also find me with Blanka Falk with my full name. So yeah, and I think
we
that's
will
it.
make sure that everyone is able to click those links easily attached to this
Yeah.
post, and that'll help them with the German title. But you and I discussed that your book is also available on Amazon in English. That's correct.
No, not in English. So far
Not
not.
yet.
Not
Not
yet,
yet.
yes.
Yeah, I think
Not yet.
it obviously is a topic that I think would be beneficial widely, but I love that members of the German community are having an opportunity to experience this now. And you've demonstrated that you have a tremendous wealth of wisdom and ability to help people in English. So I hope that they will look you up and follow to learn more. So thinking about this topic of motherhood and the journey of, who we just being the most intentional and impactful mothers that we desire to be. What's one thing that you believe all mothers can do that makes everything else about this job of motherhood either easier or really not necessary to be stressed or worried about in your experience?
Yes, my experience is really follow your intuition. It's it's so easy to say and so hard to do
Hmm.
because again, a lot of people just are disconnected from their being. But this is so we are given this actually. So everyone has it, and especially mothers, because they're prepared to give birth.
Hmm.
So they have got everything. They don't have to buy anything or learn anything or just to get into your own intuition because each way is different and we are all individuals. So what might be good for me might not be good for you. You have to figure this out with your intuition. What feels good for you? And it's easy to say, but I know that there might be mothers who say, "Oh, I have no problem with my intuition. That's wonderful." I say, "Go."
Hmm.
But there might be others who say, "Oh, I don't know. I have to learn first." No, don't learn with your head, don't learn with your brain, but learn with your heart.
Hmm.
So that's the point to really get connected with your heart.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that about the people who might feel that they struggle with being in touch with their intuition. And I think earlier you mentioned how important it is for mothers to have practices like drinking regular, amounts of water and making sure that they're well nourished. I think it definitely goes without saying that we can get out of touch and detached from ourselves and from God, our source, that it's so important to make sure that you are in your best state,
Yeah.
really taking care of yourself. And I think this refers back to what you said about the inner work that we each get to do, which is what allows us to be connected with our intuition and really making all of our decisions and living our life from the best possible place. Do you have a favorite story or personal experience about a shift or a transformation that you have seen happen with a mother who is, embarking on this journey, perhaps with all of the expectation and distraction that we have, but finding that place of calm so that she could really be the strong mother that she desires to be?
Well, yes. There's one who comes in my mind. She was not a young, well, her youngest girl was 1 year old, and I
Mm-hmm.
think she had two boys also. They were older.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, yes, she was leaving her husband, which was just a toxic relationship. And she
Mm-hmm.
was struggling so hard in this situation and thought she couldn't get out of this and almost felt a little depressed.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, with encouraging to get into her power, really, that she's able to go through this. And it doesn't help if you're in a relationship that's toxic. So actually, you get the power back,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have to become aware of what are you capable of now. And she was so glad, so happy after this. And she said, "Oh, I have my dream job now, and I can." Actually, she was a teacher, and
Mm-hmm.
she said, "Oh, I have got a mission here." She came from Kenya, and I like to empower other women here, and just to, yes, to take their education and to build them up into the computers and everything. So digital world for the women there who live rural. And she got wonderful job, and she said, "I'm so glad that I didn't lose myself in this situation, actually, to fall down and not knowing what to do now and just feeling alone, and carried those three children." Well, actually, it's so sad, but the oldest boy was thinking, "I have to save my mom now because she's in a struggle." So he felt that he should protect her, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a boy. So this is so, I think this was such a big shift, and he was so happy after this when he saw his mother just raising.
Mm-hmm.
So this was so,
I
this was
love
wonderful.
this. You talked about, you know, being able to look at the circumstances around you. I get so much out of the example that you just shared. Number one, that perhaps it's never too late. Whether your child is unborn, just born, 1 year, early elementary, whatever, that you always have the space to borrow your words, get your power back, right? And to thrive from that position. And I love the way you framed the story at the end that she was rising. So
Mhm.
beautiful. And I think this is absolutely what we wish for everyone around us. It's the reason for this podcast, just that we give people just enough to help them elevate the position that they're in and experience something new from that vantage point. They can look around and decide what's next. So I really appreciate you creating this space for us to do just that, to share a little bit of information that individuals could take and try and absolutely follow and connect with you to learn more. So thank you so much for being on Remarkably Simple today, Blanka. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you and to be invited and to share a little of my stories. Thank
All
you.
right. So until we get to connect again next time.
Yeah.